So days like this are few and far between in Irish sport. Fintan, McCarthy and Paul O'Donovan from Skibbereen in County Cork are the Olympic champions. We will have all the reaction from Tokyo, and we're going to speak to their families back in West Cork on this evening's show. We'll have John Giles on the summer transfer window, Tommy Welsh on the genius of Joe Canning. This is a gold-plated Off the Ball.
That was another magnificent row by Fintan McCarthy and Paul O'Donovan. Is there anybody likely to touch them in the final? Is Ireland going to rack up its very first rowing gold medal? Green light, off they go. This is the way it started in the semi-final, and we know how that ended. They weren't in the lead from the get-go, but it was consistent rowing throughout that took them to the first place across the finishing line and into this final.
We begin this morning with Dr. Pat O'Callaghan, who on the 29th of July 1928 won the gold medal in the hammer event in the Amsterdam Olympic Games.
And he said, "I'm glad of my victory, not of the victory itself, but for the fact that the world has been shown that Ireland has a flag, that Ireland has a national anthem, and in fact that we have a nationality."
And they're now in second place, having seen off the Italians, and into the second half of the race we go, and it's just 0.62 of a second between them. Rommelmann and Osborne for Germany, as McCarthy and O'Donovan begin to make their charge.
Tisdale first, then Hardin, Taylor and Burley.
Having won this race, I realized one of my life's ambitions.
This is the moment in the race when it could all be decided. Ireland in the gold medal position. Germany have eased back. And now we're into the final 500 metres. And they're on their way. 250 metres to go, and history is being made in Tokyo.
Delaney wins. His surprise victory is one of the most unexpected sensations of the game.
Fintan is the champion of the Olympic Games.
Katie Taylor is the champion of the Olympic Games.
And history is being made in Tokyo. It's McCarthy and O'Donovan writing history for Ireland. Never before has Ireland won a gold medal in rowing. They're home and hosed. It's Ireland from Germany, and history is made on the water in Tokyo as Vincent McCarthy and Paul O'Donovan win gold. Gold for Ireland.
Ronnie Delaney, Michael Carruth, Katie Taylor and now Fintan McCarthy and Paul O'Donovan are post-war gold medalists at the Olympic Games. Brilliant work there from Richie McCormack to pay fitting tribute to the two national heroes after the success in the early hours of this morning. I'm sure there's plenty of people tuned in who got up, who stayed up, who are feeling a little bit dozy now, but I'm sure it was well worthwhile, because those like that do not come along very often in Irish sport. 53106 is the text number. Add Off the Ball to get in touch on Twitter. Richie McCormack is with us. I'd say you enjoyed putting that together, Richie.
I'll tell you what, Nathan, maybe it's because I woke up at 1:30 this morning and was awake through till about 3 watching the rowing. But I nearly set myself off when I finished that one earlier on today, because, yeah, you kind of realise the momentous nature of it all when you're putting together the amount of gold medalists we have, and you can fit them on two hands. The amount of gold medals, I should say, we have, never mind gold medalists, you can fit them comfortably within two. But yeah, it was really, really special, and made all the more special, I guess, for the fact that it was done without any fuss. There was no real sense of panic. There was no real sense of fear. There was no real sense of being an underdog. This was a favourite going out and 100% executing their plan on the big stage, most important stage of all. And we should all be exceptionally proud of each and every person that's been involved in that gold medal. Not just the two lads, but the guys and girls who went into the preparation of that in Skibbereen and beyond, because it was absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, what Dominic Casey has done with these rowers has just been incredible. From 2012 to have Sunita Perspore as the only Irish rower competing at those games in London, to now having a bronze and a gold just 8 years later, and somebody in a boat like Fintan McCarthy, who wasn't even rowing then, who was looking at London thinking, I'd like a little bit of that, who 4 years later is able to look at lads from Skibbereen winning a silver medal and think, I'd really, really like a bit of that, and then to force his way into the boat and to be an Olympic champion in 2012 is one of the great Irish success stories. Joe Molloy is with us as well. Joe, Richie touched on it there. I don't want to say it's un-Irish, because maybe we do ourselves down at times, but going in as overwhelming favourites and not to have won it really on passion or emotion. In fact, it was the complete opposite. It was all business. It was all business from Fintan McCarthy and Paul O'Donovan. It was, we have trained hard, we have done the work, and we're just going to go out and do the job.
Yeah, that's what's so striking about it, isn't it? Niall O'Toole was on yesterday. I mentioned to you in the Newsround that he was freaking me out, to be honest, because he was saying, look, watch this race. The Germans will get off to a better start. Don't panic. Once the boys put the foot down, that is their blueprint, and they won't be caught. They'll power by the Germans. They'll win gold. Almost wanted to hit the jump button, which we generally use for slander on the show. To, like, we can't speak like this, but it's like, it is true. Like, we generally, even when we do win gold, as rare as it has been, we have been David generally, or felt that way. Like, you think of Carruth's reaction when he was jumping up and down. Like, I mean, it was just the most kind of stunning moment, as opposed to the two lads just with a good firm handshake when they crossed over here this morning. And then even Katie Taylor, you know, I guess the closest thing we've probably ever had to, you know, favourite and rock star in a sport and the leading light in a sport. That Olympic final was a nervous watch, you know, and we did not know which way the decision was going to go at the end. So this was the antithesis of all that. And it's amazing. I mean, it just really is. And Fintan McCarthy, absolutely extraordinary European champion, world champion, now an Olympic champion. But Paul O'Donovan, 2 times a European champion, 4 times a world champion, silver Olympic medal, now gold medal. He will, I suspect, and it's hardly a big stretch to say it, retire as Ireland's most decorated athlete of any sport in any era. He is truly exceptional. And it also feels like they have created something, like further to your wider point about the work done in Skibbereen, because the 4 girls yesterday winning the bronze, I mean, dotted from around the country. That feels like a more sustainable model. Niall O'Toole was saying as well that, like, we're now picking talented rowers from different parts of the country, putting them together, and whatever atmosphere is down in West Cork, it means that you know, excellence is breeding excellence, and they're comparing themselves to each other, and you know, if they can hit a certain standard down there, it means they're on the world stage in a big way. So, you know, you'd be very hopeful that suddenly we now have a new sport that we can consistently do well at. But it's just amazing. They're so likable, they're so down to earth, they just are kind of the full package, and I think everybody loves them, and it's amazing. And a bit like yourselves, I'm not the world's biggest patriot, but kind of a cool thing when you see Aaron Levine and the Irish flag flying.
Yeah, it is a weird thing where you're standing there and going, yes, like the fact that you have to get gold to have the anthem and to have the flag raised. And I always remember being there in 2012 for Katie Taylor, and as you say, I wouldn't generally be an emotional person around things like this, but you're going, bloody hell, like, for an Irish person to have achieved that, to be the very best in the world, and to have performed on the biggest occasion, because Brendan O'Brien was with us on the Olympic show earlier, and when it works, when you're the raging hot favourite and you deliver, everyone goes, well, of course they won, we all expected them to win. But the Olympic Games, more than anything else, is littered with raging hot favourites that it just didn't happen for, because it is that one day. We see Sunita Perspore today, who, you know, wasn't feeling well the last couple of days. Her last 4 years building up to this, we all thought a probable medalist, a possible gold medalist, and then you just don't feel right, and that's it. And at 39, that might well be it for Sunita Perspore, but nothing was going to stop these guys. And like, the down to earthness, in a way, you're looking at them going, like, they can't be this calm. But actually, Richie, the reason they're so brilliant is that they don't get carried away. They don't overthink this. They're not, you know, they're not even really wrapping themselves in the flag, thinking about what it means to the people of Skibbereen. All they're thinking is, we enjoy what we do, we get out, we try and train harder than everybody else, and this seems to be what happens.
I think there is an element of confection to it, if I'm being completely honest, though. I think as likeable and as down to earth as they are, they are in a very special way able to detach themselves from the enormity of what they're doing while still able to perform at the top level. And that's mentally an exceptional thing for an athlete to have like Usain Bolt used to have it, say, on the start line. You'd see him, flexing and dossing around before he'd go and run, a 9.69 in the 100 meters or something silly in the 200. Like, he'd look like he was about to go and run in the park, and he'd go and do something exceptional. I think similarly, Fintan, Paul, and several others among that rowing team have that ability to, I think, set aside the enormity of what they're doing and go out and perform to the utmost level. And further to the point as well about the circumstances in which the medals were won. This feels like, to me at least anyway, this feels like the first gold medal that Ireland has won that wasn't despite itself. Like, if you look at Carruth in '92, you can't really say that there was the infrastructure in place in Irish boxing to allow that to happen on a more sustainable level, and that's why we ultimately had to wait a few more years. In '96, Michelle Smith won her gold medals without a 50-meter pool in her home country. Similarly, we went on. We had the high performance boxing unit essentially butting heads with other sporting bodies and with the government themselves, and trying to realise that what the talent that we do have, even up and through Katie Taylor's gold medal. But this is the first time that paying into our sports and putting the right infrastructure in place and putting the right funding in place for our athletes, the right coaching, has finally paid off in a gold medal, and in a sustainable way as well. Like Joe mentioned, like, we do have fours and interchangeable teams that can go forward and win medals from this point onwards, and we are seeing the benefits of what's happening in Abbottstown through different sports like badminton. You look at Nat Wen the other day and what he's going to go on to do beyond these Olympic Games. So there's really cause, and this kind of highlights the cause for optimism that the country should have for future medals going forward. Not obviously that it's everything, but it certainly does add to the gaiety of the nation.
We talk about the depth. A lot of it is within their own families, of course, as well. And on the Olympic show, and we played out a little bit earlier on, we were talking with Jake McCarthy, who had got to a European Championship final in the boat with his brother, and obviously Paul and Gary O'Donovan had won silver, and this time, unfortunately, Gary misses out. And like, we kind of heard about what he had to go through over the last few days, that he was one of the reserves, so flew over to Tokyo, and then once the first race had happened, knew he wouldn't be a part of it. So it seems was on a flight back to Ireland when all this was happening. And we're going to hear from his mother Trish as well, and as delighted as she was and proud, also making that point of, I'm going to have to keep an eye out for Gary as well, because while you put a brave face on this, having been the semi-finalist or been the silver medalist 4 years ago, he was desperate to be in that boat, and as happy as he will be for his brother, I'm sure there's a part of him that wishes was there as well.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. I was just about to make that point. I found myself thinking of Gary a bit today. Very difficult for him. Really tough. I'm sure he is delighted for his brother and wants to be on board with the celebrations, but he's a human being, and I think we all know how we'd feel in that situation. I think it is very difficult for him. I felt very sorry for him today. Like I said, I thought about him a few times, because obviously the coverage is everywhere, and did find myself wondering, Penny, for his thoughts and how's he doing. So it's tough, isn't it? Sport is brutal, and as you said, so many things can go wrong to the favourites, and then things can go wrong in other ways, like I suppose they did for Gary. Ultimately, timing is everything, which is why what's rare is wonderful. And I do take Richie's point. I think there is a degree of playing up to the cameras at times from the lads, and I think their stoicism and their casualness is a touch overstated for maybe just, the crack, and also because maybe it protects them from getting too nervous about things. But there is a kernel of truth in it, and like Paul had the quote about winning and losing today, and I do think he's been genuine when he says it. He said of losing or winning, but he said of losing, life goes on all the same, and you still have the same friends, you still do the same things day to day. It's not the be all and end all of the world. For sure, winning's better and not winning, rather, don't get me wrong, but there's not a huge difference. I suspect he sort of does think that. His life training away to be a surgeon and back rowing in a month's time and training and everything probably won't be that different. But obviously, when you've won gold, it's a wonderful thing, and it's I guess, well, you're the first line of your obituary is written and all that. But I do think they get that a lot of the fuss and a lot of the hype and a lot of going on Graham Norton and stuff is all just a tornado which rips through and disappears again very, very quickly.
Yeah. They definitely get it. 53106 is the text number at Off the Ball if you want to get in touch on Twitter. The Newsround is brought to you by Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. I know what you're thinking, listeners. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, God, days like this, Ireland have just won a gold medal at the Olympics. Like, will it be the top story in the news round? Will it be the top 4 stories in the news round? No. Richie McCormack's top story in the news round is Bohemians. This is outrageous. Richie.
Nathan, you know yourself as much as anybody. You go with the live action first, and then you move on to the sundry other stories. That's just a fact. That's broadcasting for you.
Though. I'm not entirely sure you do when it's a gold medal at the Olympics. But go on anyway. How are Bows doing?
This is up there with Sheehan. This is up there with Sheehan yesterday for misjudging the mood.
Listen, you go with life. It's not just about these glory hunting occasion junkies, Nathan. There's actual meat and potatoes action going on tonight. And 2 SSE or Tracy Parent Division sides started the evening with hopes of reaching the 3rd qualifying round of the UEFA Conference League. They're into the second half. Well, actually, they're heading towards full time in Estonia, where it's Levadia Tallinn 1, Dundalk 1. Dave McMillan's equaliser just before half time tonight has made it 3-3 on aggregate and off by Pat Houben, heading for extra time in the Estonian capital. There will be 8,000 fans, Bohemians fans, inside the Aviva Stadium tonight. The Dublin club hold a 1-0 first leg lead ahead of their second leg with Dudlange of Luxembourg, and kick-off at Lansdowne Road is at 7:45.
I'm surprised you're here.
So am I. I know, getting two Thursdays off out of 3 to go to the football would have proved.
You're saving yourself for the next stage, is that it?
I'm saving myself for the group stage, Nathan. I'm going on away trips.
Damn right. So Bows 1-0 up. Expectation that at home at the Aviva, 8,000 people, they'll kick on from here?
I would hope so. I'm not going to offer a forecast on the score, because I'm that worried. This is a side, Dudlange, who reached the group stage of the Europa League last term. They've got a better European pedigree than any Irish side in action this summer. So it is not at all job done. But I saw the atmosphere that got hold of the players 2 weeks ago at the Aviva Stadium against Stjarnan. It definitely made a difference. You're going to add 2,000 more on top of that tonight. Bows managed to handle the occasion that night. I think they will again tonight. It is just a matter of quality on the pitch and whether or not they can see off Dudlange. But yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But by no means is it done. But it seems, in Tallinn, where Will Patching in injury time has scored for Dundalk. They're 2-1 up away from home to Levadia Tallinn just in the past moment or so. They're playing injury time. That Will Patching goal coming in injury time. And Dundalk now leading by 4-3 on aggregate. And it looks like they are heading through for a tie with Vitesse Arnhem.
All right. Great stuff, and brilliant stuff from Will Patching as well there. So, Vinnie Perth, certainly making an impression. And again, Dundalk doing the right thing in Europe. So we'll keep a close eye on that, and hopefully they can see it out over the closing seconds of injury time as well. What exactly would have to happen in Irish sport, Richie, for Bohemians not to have been the top story?
God. Would have had to have a serious kind of, Black September kind of 1974 effort going on over to the Olympics. But thankfully that hasn't happened. We've had a good day over there.
Yes.
Sunita Pushpur, apart from that. Yeah, she withdrew from tomorrow's B final of the women's singles sculls. The Irish rower placed a disappointing 5th in her semi-final earlier this morning. She's blamed her performance and subsequent withdrawal on feeling unwell, but 3-time Olympian Niall O'Toole told OTB AM this morning that he hopes Pushpur can compete in Paris, but perhaps not as a single.
And she didn't execute well enough, and that's really gutting for her. She's slow off the start, but she didn't get going at all in the race. I don't know whether it was pressure or nerves. I'm just really devastated for her. The whole rowing community is devastated for her. People wanted, she was probably a year, maybe too late for her. This time last year, she had Olympic gold, and that was it. She was streets ahead of everybody else. And might be it might have been a year too late for Sina. She's 39. I hope, and if she's listening, Sina, please go on to Paris. I would like to see her maybe in a 4 or a prayer. Get out of the single. She's been 15 years in the single, which is absolutely brutal. Get out of the single, get into the 4, get yourself a medal in Paris and retire. But hang on for 3 more years, Sunita, please, because we think you're awesome, and we want to see you in the sport, and we want to get you what you truly deserve, is that Olympic medal.
Yeah, OTB AM on air on all our social channels from 7:30 every morning, so they've all the instant reaction to everything that has happened overnight. You can get up to date, lots of special guests in there as well. What else then has been happening for the Irish, Richie?
Yeah, Shane Ryan is the latest Irish swimmer to set a new national record in Tokyo. He was 4th in his heat in the men's 100-metre butterfly in a time of 52.52 seconds. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to progress to the semi-finals. Remember as well, he had to pull out of his favourite 100-metre backstroke earlier on in the week because of a shoulder problem. Annalise Murphy, meanwhile, she's given herself a real fighting chance of making the medal race in the laser radial sailing. The Rio silver medalist is up to 14th following a first and second place finish in this morning's 2 races. She needs to crack the top 10 with her remaining 2 races to make that medal race, while the 49er duo of Robert Dixon and Sean Wadilove sit in 7th place in their event. Shane Lowry and Rory McIlroy have ground to make up tonight after the first round of the golf at the Olympics. McIlroy has signed off on a 2 under par round of 69, while Lowry will be 1 under par going into day 2. Austria's Sepp Straka holds a 1-shot lead on 8 under. Elsewhere, Derek Burnett finished in 26th position in the men's trap qualification in shooting. He didn't advance to the final, sadly. The Longford man is competing in his 5th Olympics, an incredible achievement, while Irish judoka Ben Fletcher had an early elimination in the men's 100 kg category, losing by Waziara Muhammadin Kuramov of Uzbekistan.
Only the first round of the golf at the Olympics, but Sepp Straka is not the one, Joe, that is going to set pulses racing heading into the weekend.
No, golf is kind of delicate at the Olympics, not in terms of how the IOC see it, they're going to keep it going, but just in terms of how the top male professional golfers see it. And I'm sure there was relief all around for the sport when Justin Rose won in Rio 5 years ago, because it gave it a certain cachet. With the greatest of respect to Sepp Straka, who I'm sure is a great fella altogether, it just wouldn't quite help things. You want some stellar winners, I think, for the first 2 or 3 iterations of this thing, and then it does give it a certain cachet. And golf wants to get to where tennis is, where it's still, it's definitely a coveted thing in tennis. And there's the Golden Slam, if you can win all the 4 Grand Slams and win an Olympic gold as well. And Justin, Annalise Murphy, I think, to be fair, very quietly, she's having an extraordinary games, and it must be so difficult for her, because I know from speaking to her in advance, she thought she was going to win gold here. She thought she was in with a great chance of gold. Obviously, we know how she went in London, and we know she won silver in Rio. She started both of those games so well, and that makes life so much easier. You sleep better, you're in a great place, you've got adrenaline, you've got, a bit of wiggle room. She got off to the worst possible start. I mean, disaster in the first race where she had a clash of boats before the starting gun even went off, and that completely scuppered her. Bad first 3 or 4 races even, horrific. And she talked about how upset she was. 5 years of building up to this, thinking about gold, and then it just blows up in her face. And I think she would have been forgiven for saying, well, sod this, and just, bringing this thing to its inevitable conclusion and trundling along. Instead, each day I wake up, she's had another great finish and another great finish. So Annalise Murphy has gone from 32nd in the standings to 14th. And as Richie said, she's got 2 more races now to crack the top 10 and get into the medal race. And if she does that and ends up finishing anywhere in the top 10, it's an exceptional effort, because I would think, Nathan, she's doing it with a heavy heart out there and almost upset at the whole thing.
Yeah, after such a slow start, and as she admitted herself, probably putting too much pressure and too much expectation, having come so close in 2012 and then getting the medal in 2016. We have any amount of text messages in about Michelle Smith when we're talking about our Olympic medalists. Michelle Smith actually released a statement today to Liveline. She wanted to congratulate our brilliant rowers Fintan McCarthy and Paul O'Donovan on their wonderful achievement of becoming Ireland's newest Olympic champions. What a stunning performance. She also said, 25 years ago this week, I became the first Irish woman to win an Olympic gold medal. By the end of that week in Atlanta, I became a triple Olympic champion. It was a culmination of 17 years training and dedication to my sport. Standing on the podium, watching the tricolour being raised and listening to Aaron Naveen was and still is the proudest moment of my life. 25 years have passed and people still stop me to tell me where they were when I won all my medals. I will always be incredibly proud of what I achieved and remain touched by the level of support still shown to me by the people of Ireland. And she signed off the statement, Michelle Smith de Bruin, triple Olympic champion. So that is what Michelle Smith de Bruin has had to say today. Keep your text coming in, 53106. Any amount of people who are loving the success of Paul O'Donovan and Fintan McCarthy. Will Paul O'Donovan really stick with the rowing while he's training to be a surgeon? He could turn out to be an all-time great Olympian from any country, but I can't see him hitting the gym while stitching up patients, says Flora. That is the thing about these Olympians. By and large, their success in the water or on the track or wherever seems to be matched quite often off it as well, because they're just built that way, Joe. They just have that innate thing that they can work hard and be successful at whatever they do.
These type A personalities, yeah. Well, Paul has managed both thus far. He's well into his studies now, so I suspect he'll keep on going. The lovely thing now, as disappointing as last year was for all these athletes, is that suddenly Paris being 3 years away is nothing. And hopefully Sunita Pusport does look at it that way too, by the way. But look, I think Paul O'Donovan can probably take on a second job as well and keep things going.
Here is another chance to win our bank holiday bonus on News Talk.
The bank holiday bonus on News Talk.
Earlier today, John Comerford from Tala in Dublin won himself $5,000.
We picked your number at random.
Okay.
You answered your phone within 5 rings, which you had to do. You've answered the question correctly. So, John, you've just won €5,000.
That's great news.
How are you feeling, John?
Brilliant. She's doing up the house at the moment, so that kind of helps for us big time.
So here is how you could win. We will ask you a question. You have until 5 o'clock tomorrow to answer. If you answer correctly, we could be calling you on the hard shoulder just after 5 o'clock. Answer within 5 rings and you win the bank holiday bonus. So to be given a chance, just answer this question. What is the highest mountain in the world? Is it A, Everest, B, the Sugarloaf? Text the word play followed by A or B to 57599. That is 57599. Entries cost $2.50 plus your standard message rate. You're playing across the Go Loud network of stations and you'll find full terms and conditions on newstalk.com. That's the word play followed by A or B to 57599 by 5 o'clock tomorrow for your chance to win €5,000. Then just stand by to answer our call just after 5 within 5 rings and the 5k bank holiday bonus could be yours. Joe, Richie, thanks as always.
All right, boys.
Up next, we are down in gold medal country. We're going to be talking to the families of Paul O'Donovan and Fintan McCarthy in Skibbereen.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
At Harvey Norman, we've got big deals on sofas, dining tables and homewares this bank holiday weekend. Save up to 50% on our stylish range of handmade sofas. Accent chairs from a low $149. Dine in style.